Why so many health tech startups gain early traction and then suddenly stop? It's usually not the tech, it's not the vision, and it's rarely a lack of effort. This episode, I'm joined by Dirk Schapeler, the president of Natera Venture, the venture arm of Natera, a $5 billion Japanese technology company operating globally across automotive, medical, and industrial products. Dirk also serves as a board member at Arcandis Group, where he supports innovation strategy and global expansion. Together, we unpack what actually causes startups to slow down after early wins and why most solutions aren't built to scale in the real world. If you have proven demand, but growth feels harder than it should, this conversation is for you. Welcome to Provider's Edge, the podcast that helps healthcare entrepreneurs and innovators break down barriers and control their business, life, and future with valuable action steps. With me, your host, Sabrina Runbeck, a recovered clinician and a business deal catalyst. Let's rewrite the rules and create a positive social impact while increasing your profitability.
HealthTech founder. If you're tirelessly scaling your innovative solutions, constantly pitching your vision, and still waiting for that breakthrough moment to truly be seen, this message is specifically for you. The prestigious HealthTech Impact Awards are now officially open for applications. And let's be clear, yes, this is a highly competitive program designed to identify the best and brightest. It's completely free to apply, removing any financial barrier to entry. However, please understand, this is an exclusive opportunity, and not everyone gets in. We're looking for true innovators. This is your unparalleled chance to earn significant national recognition, elevate your brand, and refine your crucial pitch with personalized expert coaching. Gain direct access to top investors, influential health system leaders, and key founders, the very people who can open doors that will fundamentally change everything for your company. You didn't build your company to play small. So stop hoping to be discovered. Apply to be undeniable. Make your mark on the future of healthcare. Applications close sharply on March 1st. Don't miss this critical deadline. Go now to HealthTechImpactAwards.com. That's HealthTechImpactAwards.com. It's your moment to shine. Make it matter. Apply today and transform your health tech vision into a national success story.
We're at Health, and we're so excited. Always have a lot of innovators, investors, healthcare leaders all converge together because it's all about what's the right way to collaborate. And media is simply a platform we can speak about it in our most natural self. So, what got you so excited about this year's Health?
So we are a Japanese industrial company who's getting into health and expanding into health on the hardware side. And there's a lot of innovations that I saw. You walk the floor here and you run into companies that are working on saliva testing, on all kinds of new modalities to take your vital signs. And these kind of things combined with AI is really what I find most compelling. When you think about healthcare being more and more in a home setting and people need and want to know about their health more and more, these kind of new technologies will enable that. And so, that's what I'm really getting excited about, and hopefully we can invest into some of those companies.
I was actually just talking to another Japanese venture fund as well about how innovations over there and here is how do we explore some of the innovation already established here, or perhaps even bring some of the Japanese innovations to the U.S., right? I think the U.S. is always a big playground, and it can go both ways. It's just a matter of the niche, right? The population where we see the best fit is. So for that, it seems like you guys are looking at home-specific remote care type of being able to give more access to people to be more flexible.
So the background of our company is actually quite interesting. It's a Japanese spark plug company. The brand is NGK Spark Plugs. $5 billion company, 17,000 people. And for the last 90 years, we have been producing spark plugs very successfully. But as you can imagine, electric vehicles are coming along. You don't need spark plugs for that. So therefore, we established a $100 million fund about 4 years ago And we are investing into environmental tech and also into medical devices. And in the medical device space, we are in particular interested in sensors, into things that require really advanced materials. A spark plug actually works well because we have a lot of material know-how. So how to make the surface coating, how to make the ceramics. And a lot of these technologies, even though they are in a completely different industry, in automotive, they are very relevant for medtech. So think along the lines of vital signs monitoring, lab on chip, bioreactors. These kind of things is what we are investing into, and where we are trying to really enable the patients to capture more data about their health, use it to enjoy better treatments, and do this ideally in a home setting.
And we see many applications across the board, right? And then it's also disease specific.
Yeah.
Whether they want earlier detection for, like, say, a cancer of skin, right, or oral cancer. We have a whole world pavilion right here. And I even see some of the startups that I personally have know going through the process. It definitely is that there's diversify which area we wanted to explore, right? Because it seems like there is something for every single specialty nowadays.
There is, and a lot of companies also die. So we have a lot of experience with trying to cut through the hot air, when we do due diligence. But we are really interested in the cutting edge and really new ideas. So we look a lot into the spin outs coming from universities, and accelerators in order to really capture the technologies and help accelerate it using our money, but also our expertise in manufacturing and other areas to accelerate it. One area that we really focus on right now is wound care.
Mm-hmm.
So we invested into technologies that use cold plasma.
Yeah.
It's like the fourth state of matter in order to disinfect wounds, and then by means of that, give quality of life back to patients by closing the wound much more quickly. Actually, it's a funny story because originally we were working on cold plasma to reduce emissions from combustion engines, from cars.
Yeah.
You can do that. And you can use the same or similar technology in order to disinfect wounds of chronic patients like diabetes patients and others. And that led to getting into other wound-related technologies, reducing the pain that patients suffer from during debridement of wounds.
Right.
Analyzing the wound from diagnosing it all the way through tracking whether the wound healing process is successful. That's where you will see more from Nutera Ventures in the future.
That's nice. So my background is in cardiothoracic surgery, so we deal with a lot of wounds as well, right?
Yeah.
Vascular surgery on that diabetic wound, as you mentioned, right? Lower extremity. People are not even doing their foot check, right? Or vascular disease, they have these dried up wounds, right? Necrotic or vascular wound a lot of time. And then versus our clean wound, right? The post-operative, we wanted to make sure if we cut into people's chest, those heal, they don't wound dehiscence or infection, versus what you were saying about how do we even diagnose this wound, right?
Yeah.
Because we have so much bioflora in the skin, and sometimes it's opportunistic disease that cause the infection versus they have an immunocompromised things, right?
Yeah.
So when we do those wound study, it's like, oh yeah, you got a swab, but you have to wait for culture, right? Days later before something comes back.
Yeah.
Right now we keep treating it empirically and not specific enough. Versus sounds like you guys have a technology that you guys invested in, and then coming more of how do we be more specific with that treatment plan, right? Prescribing the right antibiotic or fungal medicine that will target, and then start tracking the healing process when people go home. They can't not be in clinic all the time, right? Wound care clinic, they maybe only come once every other week or whatnot, right? To help both the patient and the family to understand the progress.
It started with investing into a company called Plasma. It's a German company called Neoplas. They have really the best treatment in using that technology. But now it expanded into investment into InBed. They are making advanced dressings. And our interest is to help them to actually combine these therapies. So we're actually sponsoring a combination study where we use technology from one company and the other, bring it together. And for the patients, it's the best of it all, right? It's really moving the field forward. And you will appreciate that in wound care, there's actually not that much innovation. People are slapping a Band-Aid on and disinfect it, and that's it, right? I mean, that has been the same thing for the last 30 years or so, right? So it's time.
Yeah, and also the pressure ulcer wound. We're seeing some innovation in either the bed that's reduced pressure or earlier detection of those pressure ulcer. So then you can get into the treatment plan sooner, because you have plenty of those critical care patients or chronic disease that they just so debilitated. And it could also be post-op, right? People who are sedated, they're not really able to move that much. And for the nurse to move them every 2 hours is tough. And to be able to have all these combination of healing adding together and not go for the traditional, there's some different pads, some different honey treatments, right? How can we do better than the old age of what wound care is?
Yeah.
And something that we even use is this almost like a vacuum pad of sucking in the pressure, the fluid from within, so the closed wound, surgical wound can stay dry, right? There's all these amazing things coming out of the pipeline.
A lot of it has to do with how you combine these. So the negative wound pressure technology is actually in combination with this core plasma disinfection technology. And then the dressing on top of it, right? And then you track the whole thing using, your phone or a specialized sensor. And then you embed it into a service.
Wound care is definitely one of those areas big on podiatry, big on diabetic patient, big on any surgical patient, right? And we can also see that even urgent care people coming in, it's like, I let it go for so long. Now they're like severe pain, right? Yeah. And then you have to really do something about it. That's exciting. So as you guys are doing due diligence, we also led a network of clinicians that are tapping into those rounds of leading innovation, advice, and also invest, because we are also understand clinical validation is so critical, right? It's not good enough just like, we're the best, we're the first, right? A lot of scientific mind or even clinical mind people, when they start innovation, they don't really understand how to put the right people, the right infrastructure, the right marketing together to make the true impact. And they're thinking more on their own internal way of, I think this is going to work. So then there's a little bit of friction on how they get buy-in from investors who are partnered to truly help them. So when you guys are selecting the right companies to think about, to help them to grow, to help them to invest, what are some of the critical things you're looking at?
Nothing magical, but we really look at how high is really the unmet need and how big is the problem, so to say, the pain point. As an example, in the wound care space, it is one of the issues that drives a lot of cost in hospitals. Of course, in the US, we know that already, as you can hear from my accent, I'm originally from Germany, and in Germany, there's over 80 primary hospitals. They all are loss makers these days, right? So there's a huge issue, and wound treatment is one of the big issues there. So, that's for us reason to say, well, why don't we go into that space and help to fix it? That's one of the criteria. And then, of course, we look at the team, we look at what kind of partnerships they can set up and what kind of traction they get. And then, of course, what is their path towards regulatory approval and reimbursement.
Because you guys deal with these regulatory, I know that there's some investment firms don't even want to deal with any of that, right? Because it does take a longer process and then longer years to get to that R&D, FDA, right? And not every single country will have something different that they prefer. And it's great that people like your firm really believe in this critical fundamental need. And it's okay for us to take a little bit of longer time to get there, but we can see there are puzzle pieces of company that you already invest, already growing, can collaborate and just keep growing from there.
As a Japanese company, sometimes it's an advantage, sometimes it's not, but we do have patience and we really value quality and a really good team that takes care of developing an amazing product and amazing service. That is actually how the company's, core product and core business became so successful. So therefore, I think those are attitudes that is a mindset that is very helpful in the medical space. So yes, it might take a little bit longer and you might have to overcome multiple hurdles compared to other areas and businesses. But for us, that is actually fine. And we are most interested in finding something that is a really unique new idea. So that is also the reason why we are looking at those research institutes, build connections with universities, trying to really get to the cutting edge technology that is probably just at the cusp of, well, we give it a little push, we help it a little, and then it's going to take off and it's going to get somewhere. And in a few years, it might be a big commercial success as well. So for us, that is what we are aiming for.
Yeah, that's the exciting part because for us, when we look at companies, we look at three pillars for sure, right? That intellectual property. How unique is it? Do they even have research enough about the competitors, right? And not just say, oh, we're so unique, right? Because we can walk down these, right? They all say that. And we can walk down these halls and you're like, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. Have you really thought about this, right? And where are they having these conversations, right? So then that market fits are coming into like, have you even talked to at least 100 people that could be using this, right? Whether it's clinicians and user patients to get their idea of how you would approach them, right? And not just like, oh, we have connections. Then did you talk to your connections, right? It's not waiting for building a product, then sell it. It's actually, you need to sell the product before you build it. I think the most important is actually the human capital side, right? Are you having the right founder, leader to do the things, what's required? And is that team not too many visionary? You're going to have some strategists, implementer, and promoter. It cannot be one quadrant all the time. Otherwise, it's too many big thinkers actually cannot get anything done.
With almost every company that we invested into in the early stage, we run into that challenge. At what point in time do you need to change some of the leadership so they can actually grow into the next stage, right? Because you have these guys that are like extraordinary PhDs, and, they had the idea and they are passionate about it. But at some point, they're just hitting a wall in terms of, well, how are we going to scale that up now? Or how are we going to get regulatory approval, whatever it might be. So managing that is actually a big part of the success story in the end.
Exactly. And I think that's why we spend a lot of time diving on that side before we even consider taking a company. But also because I'm nerdy out on those because before I went into medicine, my background is in neuroscience and music. So that's how I was able to collaborate with some of the initial founders who are doing these leadership, self-realization, partnership assessment. And then I started becoming even more and more interested, okay, what other modality can we have, right? Because our physical communication, a lot is on our body. People just somehow ignore that. And they always go for, personality testing here and there. I'm like, that is so surface level, right? We have to look into fundamentally what is your core. Are you meant to build this company or is it just a transactional thing? Right? And I think there's so much layer to a human. And that's why it's the most difficult thing.
Well, on the other hand, you can also not spend a year to just analyze the personality of the people involved. So you just sometimes gotta jump in and figure it out later and fix it if needed.
Right, and I think that's the thing about comfort level for each company. Right, when we do it, there's 5 assessments that can be done within a week, and I think that's what you were mentioning is when you have all different tools, when you have all different companies, you know how to puzzle them together to make them work. And I think that's where my mission has always been driven is how can we get more investors, clinicians to create changes together. And then we start filling each other's holes because not all of us have all the assessments, right? And then when we do believe in the result, we can get to the result if we become open-minded to grow that together.
To achieve that, we always involve a lot of external experts, some wound care expert, the best one in Japan, who sits on a committee who defines a regulation, right? This kind of level of people be involved and then have them figure out, okay, what do you think about this technology? Where could this lead, right? And ask them a lot of questions because my team cannot build up all the expertise in all those areas, right? I mean, we are kind of an investment team and of course we have technical expertise, medical expertise, but we really pull in those experts. And then a lot of times they come up with, God, you know what? I know this other company who is doing that. What if we were to combine these two? So it's a win-win-win situation because the startups probably would not be able to reach out to these other companies or wouldn't even know about them, right? And we take this global view, we have like experts in Europe, in Asia, in the US, and we try to bring it all together and then find something that is unique, either by the company itself or through combination even of multiple of these technologies.
Is that leveraging, we have the poor people, but we can always leverage the experts in the field to fill in those areas that when we need them. And it's also a credibility build for the company. I also love to ask this question usually at the end, is that if we give you a magic wand, the magic wand grants you 3 wishes to continue to expand the work that you guys can have and then fast track your next year's growth. What would you use the magic wand for?
Well, there's this one thing that the kids always do. I wish for another 10 wishes, but we're going to say that. So one thing that I have been entertaining is that in order to fulfill really and achieve really a big outcome for patients, you have to combine a lot of disciplines. These days, it's actually, on one hand, it's a good thing. On the other hand, it's also a challenge because it's not previously, I used to work for a large pharmaceutical company. It was mostly about the chemistry, right? The molecule. But now you have like the treatment and you have the medical aspect. You have like, what is the best treatment on the planet for this person? You have the genetics. So I think there is no company who can do this all. So it's all about partnerships. So my dream, and actually we're trying to do that as well, is to find other partners that we can maybe establish our next fund with, so that you have one company who has more the pharmaceutical know-how, another company who has more the AI know-how, another company who has more the hardware know-how. In order to bring those players together, everybody can benefit from it, and everybody can rely a little bit on that other partner for that discipline that is missing, right? Yeah, and then of course, a second wish would be to find to get to the best companies much earlier than everybody else. And then lastly, I have always been a sensor guy, so I think that there must be better ways to really capture your vital signs other than just having a sensor sitting on your arm or something like that. So I wish that someday you have at home your little machine, like your espresso machine or something, and you can just put your samples in there and you get a health checkup every day.
Yeah, definitely see a lot of those popping up. I love to share some of those ideas. I've been seeing earrings, stickers for arrhythmias, and there's a whole slew of things, right? I think eventually we'll get to where we can have a home kit, right? Like testing yourself no longer as like, oh, I'm afraid something gonna come up. It's actually just part of the routine that we wanted to know.
Yeah.
And then we can capture things earlier because you don't want to go to late stages, right? Even those dementia detection, right?
Yeah.
If you get to wait to the late stages, there's not much we can do. Versus early stage, you can actually, in some way, the reversal of those.
Most people don't even go to the annual exam, but even if you do that, right, so you get your data point once a year. I mean, I want to have a data point every day, but more than just my heart rate,
I so appreciate you. And so for anybody who are more on the sensory side, you have wound care knowledge. Those are some of the focuses to flow over. And what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Just connect with us. We have a website, Nitera Ventures. You can see our investment portfolio there and what we are interested in. And so if you work on something early stage in the hardware side, please ping us through the website or also reach out to me through LinkedIn direct.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Very nice to hear your podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Provider's Edge podcast. We hope you enjoy our latest episode and found the insights and tips helpful. We'd love to hear your feedback on the show and learn what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. So please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and let us know what you think. Your feedback is essential to help us improve the show and provide you with the content you need to take your healthcare business to the next level. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.